So if you're watching this, congratulations, you decided to take AP Statistics. AP Statistics is a combination of math and real-world examples.
There is more logical thinking and writing than mathematical calculations in this class.
Every single number you solve for pretty much, except for like a very rare couple, you'll be given the formula to find it on the formula sheet, aka the blue book.
Also, I took both AP Calc and AP Stats last year, and the biggest difference I would say is that Stats is not the typical math class that you think of. AP Calc is more of that typical math class with lesson and then homework, and although Stats does follow the same pattern and the same format, I'd say that Stats is much more thinking, and it's very different than anything I've ever done before, but I've really enjoyed it this year. So.
Advice for future stats students would be if you don't quite understand a lesson for that day, don't be afraid to go in during AA or lunch or after school or before school just to ask Ms. Shope to kind of clarify something. She's really good about making time to clear things up.
Ask for help if you get stuck and actually study more than one day before the test, so then you can ask questions if you don't get stuff.
The one thing I would say is beginning of the year, I actually started off taking notes on my computer for the first 2 chapters, and it was really difficult to type all the symbols as we kept going, and so I ended up switching to paper notes, but I would say taking notes by hand would be really helpful because you get to learn the material a lot easier, and also you can do the symbols quickly and easily.
My number one piece of advice is to do the homework every night and not fall behind on it or skip it too much, even though there's some leeway with it, because the math itself in stats isn't that hard, but the concepts and kind of knowing what to do can be more tricky. So really working with problems for 20 minutes a night I think was really helpful for me and allowed me to be successful in the class and just be more comfortable when it came to tests and quizzes.
And practice, practice, practice. You should always be using your calculator and doing all the practice problems, because in stats, a lot of the problems and definitions are very similar. So when it comes to test time, you want to be able to move quickly. And when you practice, you're able to understand how each problem is slightly different and be able to quickly use your calculator to solve it.
So don't freak out if a test or quiz seems super hard, because often the way that they're curved and Ms. Shope grades them, you end up getting a better grade than you think you would get.
Okay, so I would say that if you're working on a really challenging problem and you're just stuck, focus less on getting the correct answer and just try something new. Try to get some work down on your page, because usually you can earn a ton of points just from the work that you're showing, even if your final answer doesn't end up being correct.
My first recommendation is that you do your Strive for 5, because it's really good practice for all your tests and the AP exam.
Always, always, always do your Strive for 5 before tests. Even though it's extra credit, you should do it. You won't do good on your tests if you don't do it.
Also, the Strive is a super helpful tactic for studying. I always did it the night before the test, which I definitely don't suggest doing, but I do suggest doing the multiple choice and the free response the night before, because they're pretty similar to what will show up on the test, and also it will give you some bonus points for the test, so that's always helpful too.
I think definitely the most important thing is doing those free response practice problems. So the ones you go over in class and doing all those, it's important to go over those because free response is pretty hard.
It definitely did take me a while to learn how to take the test, just because I didn't realize how much the English was important. I thought it was mostly math when I came into the class, but now that I'm looking back on the year, I realize that the interpretations that you will learn in class are just as important as the numbers themselves.
It is really important to be able to interpret everything. So once you learn everything, I recommend making a page. I did this at least, and it was so helpful in your OneNote, just called Interpretations, and just writing every single interpretation you need to know on that page. And that makes it a lot easier in later units when Miss Shope goes, oh, how do you interpret a confidence interval? And you totally forget. Not saying I did. Just to go back and find how to interpret it really quickly instead of having to go through all your notes and being like, oh, where is this page? What chapter was this in? It's really easy to just go back to that one single page and find the interpretation.
I'm not gonna lie to you, AP Stats is pretty hard, but if you put the work into it, do your Strive for 5, and take the time to enjoy the surveys that we do throughout the school and in our classes, it'll all be worth it and you'll have so much fun.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say I really loved stats with Miss Shope. It was a great class and she's really enthusiastic about teaching it.
By participating and reading more and more problems, you begin to notice so many things that are applicable to real-life situations. This is definitely a class you have to study for, and falling behind makes things really difficult. I would know. But when you're on top of things, it is such an interesting class that even when things are tough, you don't feel too overwhelmed or stressed.
So yeah, good luck.